Good morning. Today is Thursday, August 27th. For the last couple of days, we've been talking about this rebuilding project that is your life, my life. We've talked about a few things that we can do in the rebuilding. But there comes a time, after we've done all that we can do, that we have to let God do what He does. Jeremiah 9:24 says that God exercises loving kindness, justice, and righteousness on the earth because He delights in those things. And then in Psalm 23, probably the most popular passage in the whole Bible, we read about some other things that God does. The psalm writer, in this case David, was at peace because of the things that he knew God does. David wrote, "He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the paths of righteousness." Isn't this exactly what we want? This God who loves, who cherishes justice, who promotes righteousness, who offers us a place of peace, who guides us, who restores our soul. Isn't that exactly what we want right now? So, whatever's going on in your life, this has to be the answer. To let God do what God does. In the 14th chapter of the book of Matthew, there's a story that I think fits this occasion. Jesus had sent his disciples away in a boat so they'd go to the other side of Galilee while he went up on the mountain to pray. And then later in the evening, Jesus decided to join them on the other side, and rather than walk around the Sea of Galilee, as Jesus and only Jesus could do, he simply walked across the Sea of Galilee. And then somewhere between 3 and 6 in the morning, Jesus came upon the boat as they were struggling with a contrary wind. The disciples saw him, and they thought he was a ghost. But Jesus assured them with, "Take courage, it is I, do not be afraid." And then, in Peter's style, as we see him do crazy things sometimes, he challenged Jesus. He said, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." So Jesus did. "Come," he said. I like to think of this in a way that Jesus was not using some kind of theological voice with some elevated attitude extending a reverent line, but more of a friendly, "Well, come on, Peter." Or maybe Jesus was just shaking his head at remembering some of the other things Peter had done, and then he was saying, "Okay, Peter, come on." Whatever the tone, Jesus accepted Peter's challenge and invited him to do what no man could do. And Peter did it. He walked on the water. As long as he kept his eyes on Jesus, everything was fine. But as soon as he started looking at the stormy sea and the wind-blown water, he began to sink. Do you think maybe there's a lesson here for us? In the midst of our storms, are we looking at Jesus, or are we looking at the danger? At that point, Jesus reached out to Peter, took his hand, and together they got into the boat. I have also wondered, we have no recording, but I've wondered if later the rest of the disciples asked Peter about what he had done. "What made you think of doing that?" Or maybe they said, "What was it like to walk on the water?" Or maybe they were simply stunned at what they had seen, and they didn't know how to ask Peter about it. They didn't know what to think, except that they had seen what was impossible become possible. And not only was Jesus doing it, but Peter was doing it as well. The point of that story, and our message for today, actually it's pretty easy. We all have our storms. But we all know of this amazing God who is seeking the best for each of us, who loves us, who guides us, who calls us, on occasion, to step out of the boat. No doubt we are living in stormy times. The question is, what are we focused on? Are you living in fear because you see the storm? Or are you living at peace because you see the Christ? Jesus asked Peter to do something that any rational person, in fact, would doubt. But the disciples, and as disciples we are, it's not for us to analyze the rationality of following him, but to keep our eyes on him and let our mighty God do what our mighty God has promised. Now, let me clarify this. Following Jesus is not irrational. In fact, in light of all of the things that he has done and all that he has promised, following him is the most logical thing that we or anybody can do. Because Jesus was not limited by the power of the wind or the instability of the sea, and neither are we. So today, Christian, go walk in peace. Walk as a disciple who trusts the invitation of the Messiah that says, okay, come to me. And then sometimes today, step out of the boat. Have a great day.